Yes. All right, we gotta dig in here today, Jackson. I don't have time for whatever nonsense you have up your sleeve. It is trade deadline day. We are 7 hours away from the deadline, and when news breaks, St. Louis wonders where I am to break it. And honestly, it's usually working on my 58-degree wedge or my 54-degree wedge for the purpose of transparency. So what do we have here lined up for a trade deadline day? I am ready. We have an hour. Let's break some news.
Well, obviously, we'll have some hot deadline talk.
What do you mean, like erotic?
Well, yeah, I think anytime you talk about player options and years of control, it gets naughty. So we'll have plenty of that. We'll have the Little Pills half and half. And then 10:35, Taylor Twellman joins us, Women's World Cup. Round of 16, they move on. The Dogs currently kind of in the break with the Leagues Cup going on, but plenty of soccer news around the globe, Tim, as they play in Australia and New Zealand. So we'll have Taylor on, and then we'll be taking your texts on what the Cardinals should do as the trade deadline expires this afternoon.
There it is, 5 p.m. I mean, we've got reports coming all over the place from the biggest names in baseball writing the Twitter tweets, now known as X.
It is now known as X.
Very active this morning, Jackson. John Morosi, who I listened to with BK and Ferrario last week, has tweeted about the possibility of the Cardinals and Marlins doing business. He tweeted the Marlins and Cardinals are potential trade partners on this deadline day. Miami GM Kim Ng would like to add offense, and Marlins manager Skip Schumacher has close knowledge of St. Louis's available bats. The Cardinals also know Miami's prospects well from sharing a spring complex. On the surface, that might sound somewhat ridiculous. I'm talking about the sharing the spring complex. I don't know if that part necessarily matters. Because I don't think the Cardinals necessarily go wandering, down. I mean, it's not very far away. For me, it's about maybe a wedge. For you, about a 5. But they do play each other quite a bit. And so the same would be the case with, I think, the Mets and the Astros and the Nationals, since those 5 teams play each other quite a bit, and you see a lot of those prospects. Also from John Morosi, that the Cardinals, with regards to trading any offense, says, and he tweeted this 34 minutes ago, Cardinals have been active in trade conversations last night and this morning. They're willing to move multiple bats. Most frequent names mentioned, Paul DeJong, Alec Burleson, and Dylan Carlson. Trade status of Tommy Edman on the IL with right wrist inflammation is unclear. That's John Morosi here within the last hour. I was reading The Athletic this morning before coming in to do the shows. TMA from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. That's on the 500,000 watts of 105.7 HD2 and on YouTube. And he wrote that the Cardinals are going to have to wait to trade Jack Flaherty until the Verlander situation with the Mets is clarified, and then the pecking order will be Eduardo Rodriguez of the Tigers, Michael Lorenzen of the Tigers, and then Jack Flaherty.
Yep.
So if that premise is accurate, and I don't know that it's accurate, but if the premise is accurate and Flaherty is going somewhere, and he is, at the moment, 4th. Who knows if Verlander will go, and who knows if that report is an accurate reflection of how general managers view Flaherty in comparison to Lorenzen, Eduardo Rodriguez, and, of course, Justin Verlander. Then that also, I think, gives you an idea of the kind of return that would get, which wouldn't necessarily be all that glamorous. Derek Gould of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch writing this morning, and you can read this on stltoday.com, that yesterday the market for starting pitchers seemed to idle. And he said that's in part because of the Mets possibly making Justin Verlander available. He also talks about the possibility of who the Cardinals would be doing business with, and the possibility of Cardinals trading offensive players away, and how that could take place here over the next few hours. Something that developed last night to keep an eye on. Do you know where I'm going with this? See if you know where I'm going with this. We touched on it very briefly on TMA. This is a comprehension exam here. It's a TMA comprehension exam. And that's tough because sometimes it's tough to understand the words we're saying.
That is true. I would love to just rattle it off, but I truly do not know.
Bo Bichette got hurt rounding first base for the Blue Jays last night. And so the Cardinals and Blue Jays, maybe they make a third trade.
Usually that's reserved for the Guardians when it comes to trade deadline. That is true. But that's usually when the Cardinals are buyers, not sellers. So,
kind of a hybrid mode. I think they got Chuck Finley in 2002 from the Guardians.
Right. I've never heard that name before in my life. But
Chuck Finley married to Tawny Katane.
Another name that's never...
Have you ever seen the Whitesnake video for Here I Go Again?
No, I don't even think I've heard the tune.
Stunning.
I couldn't be sorrier.
Does the name David Coverdale mean anything to you?
Not even a little bit.
Lead singer of Whitesnake.
Gotcha. I'm telling you, the early 2000s were a weird time.
But this was from 1987.
It continues. 1987 to like 2003. Weird time.
And why is that? Steve Bartman?
Yeah. Y2K?
Pedro Borbon, Esteban Jan's perspiration. Why? Why is 2003? And still the ramifications from Y2K.
Yeah, it's a while. I've done a deep dive on Y2K recently. Strange time, man. Strange time. A lot of money wasted.
That is correct. What were you doing when we switched millenniums?
Well, I was 2, so I assume, much like today, going to the bathroom in my pants.
Wow. Your thoughts? 314-399-9646. And if you're watching on YouTube, you were just handsomely rewarded as Jackson is acknowledging the galleries on the cameras.
Well executed.
This trade deadline, I'm going to set the over-under for members of the Cardinal Major League roster who will be with different organizations by 5:15 p.m. today at 4.5.
Wow, okay. Under.
You're going under.
I was going to, if you would have set 2.5, I would have been, because I feel like there's a bat and a pitcher, the pitcher most likely being Flaherty, the bat, throw a dart at the outfield room, who it's going to be. I would just be surprised if it was over 4.5. So I could see 3, I could see 4, 5 is when I start to be like, wow, okay, I don't see that.
So if I set it at 2.5, you would go over?
I would go over 3.5.
3.5, that's the sweet spot number?
I'd go under.
Okay, so you got a lot of value at 4.5.
Yeah, ton.
Doesn't know who Whitesnake is? Get him out! Here we go again? Or here I go again? That's from the Rangeview Church. Surprised by that. That caught me off guard.
Right. I know who I've heard the name of Whitesnake. I can't think of one of their songs off the top of my head.
Is this love? Here I go again?
You could literally say any song title ever, and I would be
Still
like,
the night? Am I right on that, Peter? Peter?
Yeah, Peter. We need someone in here named Peter. It'd be really helpful.
Much like today, going to the bathroom in my pants is gold. That's from the 3 and 4. That's support from the Air Comfort Service text line.
Yes. I feed off of your praise, so please keep it coming.
I hear Jamie Rivers music. That's from the 714. Wouldn't that be wonderful if he came storming in?
What would he be mad at me about? Because I don't know about, what was he, the found Whitesnake? What does he care?
You know what? I bet Jamie Rivers has the similar appreciation for Whitesnake that I do.
What's the big Canadian band? Is it Rush? Is Rush, they're from Canada? So
yes.
If I was besmirching Rush, it would make more sense. That's his homeland, but I don't know where Whitesnake originated from.
I think David Coverdale's a British gentleman.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I think he was with Tawny Katane, and then she was dancing all over the cars. And then she left David Coverdale, married Chuck Finley. She then got in a fight with Chuck Finley with her heel.
Yeah. Seen that one before. Again, early 2000s, wild.
And then they traded him to the Cardinals. Maybe he was traded from the... No, I think it was the Guardians. And the Cardinals traded Coco Crisp for Chuck Finley. I'm all in on that.
The Cardinals had Coco Crisp?
They did.
Man, what a miss.
Wow. Sounds like we're going to have a take on the Coco Crisp Chuck Finley trade today. You got paid handsomely if you bet against that.
Think how many Coco Crisp giveaways they could have had in 2020 to 2023 well, 20 would have been tough, but 2021 to 2023, had he just remained a Cardinal for his whole career.
What kind of freaking music does this guy listen to if he doesn't listen to Whitesnake?
Listen to a lot of UK stuff. So Whitesnake would, I guess, be in that classification, but more modern UK music.
Guys, Jackson's favorite trade is still Petrangelo's trade from Las Vegas to Edmonton, or Edmonton to Las Vegas. That's from the 636.
Right. It was a rare trade where they traded him during the playoffs, which I didn't even know was allowed, and then back to them right before they won so that he could remain on the team.
That's correct.
Pretty cool.
Like a drifter, Piddles is born to walk alone. Culture yourself, Mr. Ledoux. That's correct. I agree with that text. If you are not aware of the work of Whitesnake, which is really making a pretty prominent appearance on the program today on trade deadline day.
Right, which is nuts.
Because of Tawny Katane and the Chuck Finley acquisition in 2002.
Right. Just not getting to it.
I think Coco Crisp, I think it is a reflection on a lack of culture, and I agree with the 618 there.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Listen, I'll look myself in the mirror. I gotta know more. I can't know every band ever. Music is actually a pretty big hole in my knowledge of culture.
Does Jackson know Buffett the Manatee?
I do, all too well.
714.
And his brother Hugh.
That is outstanding. Yeah, Hugh, I think, was on the receiving end.
Yeah, rest in peace, King.
314-399-9646. It is trade deadline day. This is a day that I sit, especially with the weather looking like it is here, as I look out to the south in Creve Coeur, Missouri. It looks like we have stormy conditions, where I'll sit in front of the television and I will watch the MLB Network, and I just love the coverage. My personal favorite was 2021, when at 3:04 Central Time, Greg Amsinger and everybody on the dais received word of the John Lester trade that sent Lane Thomas to the Nationals, and the Cardinals acquiring John Lester, and the confusion that set in on the dais. But now Lane Thomas is a prize commodity at this deadline day.
Yeah, so many parallels to draw. I remember that day when they traded for J. Happ and John Lester like it was yesterday.
You went crazy. I remember you went out that night and got after it.
I just remember it. I think it was a Friday. I really do think it was like a Thursday or Friday. And I remember being like, what is going on? This is madness. And then, of course, they go on a 17-game win streak, and it was like they were falling ass backwards into success. And here they are. Chickens have come home to roost in 2023.
Wow, look at you. I was kind of a take, and I agree with it, actually.
Thank you.
I give Piddles a little slack regarding Whitesnake. He's too young to understand, but he needs to watch the video, and then he will understand.
Yeah, listen, today's day will be dedicated to not only trade deadline, but I will spend the remainder of my day both refreshing Twitter and then watching Whitesnake videos so that I'm well prepared for tomorrow.
Good for you. That's good. That's good. I think that's something the audience can appreciate. They recognize you might be too young to have enjoyed Tawny Katane on the vehicle, but you are going to go home and you're going to learn about it, and then you're going to give your opinion on tomorrow's show.
Yes.
We'll get Taylor Twellman's opinion on of a wide variety of soccer topics. Plus, he was having to cut his interview with us short last Tuesday, presented by Together Credit Union, because he was about to spend time with Lionel Messi. See how that went.
Absolutely.
Oh, are you emotional over it? Oh, my God. What? This is like Dick Vermeil talking Wilbert Montgomery. What the hell just happened?
Anytime we talk about Twellman and Messi, I get so emotional.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I hope that was captured in a GIF on YouTube.
God, I don't know.
Why did that bring up some demons for you?
I don't know. My body seemed to just shut down all at one moment. And that was like my version of DOS. Like, that's what you get when everything shuts down is my response. Oh, my God. Yeah. I couldn't be sorrier to both you and Taylor Twellman.
All right. So that's coming up at 10:35. Trade deadline discussion here on the program. Your texts being answered. A lot of Whitesnake talk as well. This is Balloon Party, driven by Mungan S. St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. Yeah. Jackson has been doing some Whitesnake research during the commercial break. What are your discoveries?
So I just learned that they were a spinoff of Deep Purple, which I do know some Deep Purple songs.
Give me your Mount Rushmore of Deep Purple songs.
I can give you two, Smoke on the Water and Hush. Now, Hush has been used a lot in Martin Scorsese movies. So
Which Scorsese pictures?
I feel like Deep Purple's Hush is in Casino or possibly Goodfellas. Could be both. He has a reputation of using songs multiple times. Gimme Shelter was used in Goodfellas. It was used in Casino. It was used in The Departed as well several times.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's good knowledge.
Thank you.
It's nice having a cinephile with me.
And then they formed Whitesnake, and based on the photos, it's kind of that time period where everyone had the Howard Stern haircut going. Really, long, curly hair, and they all have it for whatever reason. So that's what I've known so far about Whitesnake.
Okay. What have you learned about Tawny Katane?
Tawny Katane, may she rest in peace, no longer with us, but she was married to Chuck Finley, and they did divorce in 2002.
She did not want to join him in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Why did she hate St. Louis? We will never know the answer.
Yep. Yeah, it's a real shame. So that was a full circle conversation. We talked about Whitesnake, Tawny Katane, Chuck Finley to the 2023 trade deadline.
Yeah, and that's how we come full circle for today's Angry Beaver, Lil Piddles, half and half.
Woo. All right, so I got like a straight speculation trade question here on the front end, like would you do this deal kind of question.
Okay.
Looking what the Cardinals' options are, according to athletic writers Jim Bowden. You say Bowden or Bowden?
I go with Bowden because I feel like it's not what you think it would be.
Right.
That's my reason. That's how I get there.
I know that sounds like kind of like a logistically difficult, but I do agree with what you're saying there. Jim, I'm going to go with Bowden just to parody. And Ken Rosenthal, the Cardinals will most likely deal with potential dance partners Diamondbacks, Orioles, and Phillies.
Right.
The guys they are looking at are obviously Jack Flaherty and then two for the two former teams, the Diamondbacks and Orioles, and an outfielder for the latter. Did I get that confused? Either way, I think everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Are you having a reading issue this morning? You got very weepy in the first segment.
So the Diamondbacks and Orioles will most likely be looking for Flaherty, while the Phillies will be looking for an outfield bat. That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
Do you think the Cardinals will be better suited packaging Flaherty with an outfielder to maybe the Phillies, who are also looking for supplemental pitching help, as opposed to making separate trades? Do you think a package deal would be better than separate deals, or is it all case by case?
The honest answer is I have no idea what's being offered.
Right.
Now, because this is sports talk radio, this is where I act like I know something.
Sure.
All right? So let me go into character.
No doubt.
I actually, based on what would be logical, I would think the Cardinals would be benefited by packaging, because I think what they have, unless all of a sudden one of the big names who you wouldn't expect to be traded becomes available, because they're getting such a great return that they're going, we got to part ways with this person, that it would behoove them to package Flaherty and Carlson, Flaherty and DeYoung, something along those lines, to up the return.
I agree, and I actually will submit a prediction. Because why not?
Wow.
Because why not?
Predictionary alert.
Because why not?
I predicted yesterday that the Cardinals will make a trade between now and the time we were on the air. I'm really surprised that one didn't hit.
Yeah, I agree. My prediction is twofold.
Okay.
Jack Flaherty and Dylan Carlson will be Phillies by the end of today.
Wow.
Or Jack Flaherty will be on the Diamondbacks by the end of the day.
Wow.
So either one of those will happen.
Look at this. You got inside word?
Flaherty will continue to wear red. I don't have inside word. This is purely speculation.
Okay, fair enough.
But also credit me if it works out. And if it doesn't work out, I never said this.
That's the way that it worked. Good for you.
And then secondly, if I started the band, I would call it behoove.
Really?
Yeah, I love that word.
I just used it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you spoke with just like Whitesnake, you spoke with a British accent.
Yep.
All right, next question. We have seen a trend around baseball discourse with fans picking and choosing what stories they want to believe and what they want to call fake. We saw it last week with the Nolan Arenado rumors. Do you think this is akin to baseball fans watching their teams in the playoffs with national play-by-play guys on the game and thinking they are rooting against their hometown ball club? Do you think this trend is, again, a byproduct of social media, or is it further connected with print media falling out of somewhat mainstream relevancy?
Wow. I mean, how do you do?
I came to play today.
Yeah. I mean, you hit me at 10:27 with something that I could probably do 3 hours on, for real.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, outside of what I found, and I'm kind of on an island, at least I feel like I'm on an island with my observation on thinking that the whole response from a healthy portion of the fan base to the Nolan Arenado LA Times report in St. Louis being surprising, and that being that people thought it was fake.
Right.
And we had Jorge Castillo on, and Jorge Castillo said, well, I spoke with another organization and or another reporter who covers another organization, and they said that Arenado camp said that it's either the Dodgers or nobody. So that, that was a really strange thing, because so essentially that means Jorge Castillo was just making it up, or it was true.
Right.
Or I suppose you could say, well, he just got bad information from two different organizations, the Dodgers and whatever this second organization was that was interested in Nolan Arenado. I think the reason why I was trying to psychoanalyze why there was this rejection of that news in St. Louis, because to me, the Cardinals are doing the right thing by just keeping the doors open, considering their set of circumstances. This is not an organization that is a player away from returning to contention. And maybe they're saying that just to keep fans activated, but that's a dangerous game to play, because if you set those expectations and you don't deliver, it'd be like saying you're going to increase payroll and then not delivering, as an example.
Right, which, of course, happened.
That's your interpretation.
Sure.
But John Mozeliak did the right thing.
Yeah.
He listened.
Right.
And so it wasn't like, why issue a statement that we're not going to trade Nolan Arenado until you know you're not going to trade Nolan Arenado? I just don't understand that. That was something to me, that's just not good business if you're not going to listen to all offers. I think it's a mistake, unless they say we're not going anywhere, to not consider trading Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado. I wouldn't be apt to trade Nolan Arenado because of his age and how many years he's under contract, but still, he's on the other side of the prime hill. And Paul Goldschmidt is really on the other side of it, and he's only under contract for 1 more year. So with all of that said, I think, Jackson, the reason why that was received as hashtag fake news by some Cardinal fans last week, as if the LA Times writer Jorge Castillo was just making it up, or it was called clickbait or whatever other way to condemn it, was because if the Cardinals were in a spot where they had to trade Nolan Arenado, or where they were even open to it, it would signal, subconsciously or consciously, take your pick, that the Cardinals are closing the chapter on the year in and year out element of being contenders, which really does date back to 2000. And from an entertainment standpoint, locally, it actually dates back to 1997, because that's when they acquired Mark McGwire. And even though they weren't really contenders in 98 and 99, you had the home run show in 98 and 99, which became enough entertainment in St. Louis for the baseball season. So if you trade away Nolan Arenado, you are saying most likely this is going to be a bit of a process. But I think that process can lead you closer to a world championship than just hoping that Paul Goldschmidt returns to his 2022 form and you're able to get enough starters that you are a contender in 2024. I just think that is a long putt to sink. Can you make it? Yes. How often are you going to make it? 15, 20% of the time. So I don't think anybody's owed anything outside of their compensation and what's in their contract, and that's business. We're not playing feelings here. We're playing business. And if you're not interested in business, I suggest you go outside and you beg for money on the street corner, Jackson, because we're out here and it's time to make money. Are you in or are you out? You're not going to hurt my feelings anyway, because I don't whimper with the mention of David Coverdale and Whitesnake like what took place in our first segment today.
Right. And I damn near cried when I heard Messi's name. But I'm here for the money.
You are?
Yeah. I mean, how many times do we have to have the season have the same plot, man?
Good for you. Welcome. I was saying this crap were you in high school with the cheerleaders in 2016.
Yeah, Mo Green. No doubt. How many times do we have to play the same fiddle?
Let's get John Lester and Jay Happ. The hell?
Right. At some point.
It only cost Lane Thomas 2 years later. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Right.
I mean, take a stand.
Right. Pick a lane. You can't be competitive in 2024 and keep everybody that everybody wants. Like, oh, you want this person, you want that person. Well, we're not going to give those people up. Well, then you're not going to get anything in return. But we're still going to be competitive in 2024. Talking out of different sides, same mouth. Can't have it.
That's different than talking out of both sides of your mouth, isn't it?
Different side, both sides. How many sides of your mouth are there?
7.
Right. So you're talking out of side 7 and 3, and I won't stand for it. Let's all talk out of 1.
Brief aside.
Sure.
You know, every day on the program, right above Jackson's head, I see Stephen A. Smith screaming about things. And I make the observation of Jackson during the commercial break. What do I often say?
Why are they talking about the NFL?
Yesterday, they were really upset about Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett. And today, it's trade deadline day. It's 6.5 hours away. And Roman Reigns, WWE champion, is with Stephen A. Smith giving his top 5 Super Bowl contenders on a board right now. And what that tells you is the research tells them that there just isn't a whole lot of interest in baseball nationally.
Yeah, I would agree.
That there's a professional wrestler arguing with Stephen A. Smith over whether the Bengals or Bills should be number 5 in his power rankings.
Yeah, odd. Great suit on Roman Reigns, though.
Sharp look, a little bit of a Don Johnson Miami Vice T-shirt.
Yeah, big fan.
And is that a man bun I see?
Yeah. And
how do you feel about the man bun?
Frankly, jealous. Wish I could develop one.
This is a show that couldn't do a good man bun.
Blonde man bun's not great, I will say, though.
You like a guy with dark hair and a man bun.
Dark hair is just better for hairstyles, man. Maybe there's a case of grass is always...
Coverdale.
Yeah, again, Howard Stern look, which is even better when it's light-haired.
I thought you just said you like dark hair on a guy.
I do, yeah. I was being somewhat facetious. Maybe it's a grass is always greener on the other side thing because of my fair hair, but I think dark hair just works for almost every hairstyle much better.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, there's very few hairstyles where like, oh, it looks so much better in blonde hair. It's rare for me.
Why don't you have MLB Network on? That's from the 314.
I don't have the remote. Not to mention, I don't know what channel it's on. I'll have to ask Francesa.
I just received a text from Jason Isringhausen. I don't know what it means. I can't read it for FCC reasons, but it's wonderful.
Is it complimentary of me?
I'm not sure what.
Because that would really be the field I would give.
But it is an outstanding text.
I can't wait to hear it.
And I think it might be referring to you.
Yes.
It's outstanding work, though. Tip of the cap to the Cardinal Hall of Famer. Taylor Twellman is going to join us on the other side of the break. Jackson, you were up tweeting, scolding the United States women's national team for their performance against...
Yeah, I'm on 36 hours, no sleep, baby. World Cup or bust.
Carly Lloyd, a former U.S. women's national team, she was banty as all get out in the postgame show to the point that the coach called her out in his postgame comments. The U.S. women's national team, it does advance to the round of 16 in the World Cup, but it has not been impressive. Taylor Twellman will give us his thoughts on that and City. That is coming next here on Balloon Party. Driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, Knowlton Toyota, 101 ESPN.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals take on the Minnesota Twins tonight, 6:45. Your first pitch. The U.S. women's national team pull a draw with Portugal, and they move on to the round of 16 for the Women's World Cup. That was our Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back. It is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Olden Toyota, and it is our pleasure to welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen, presented by Together Credit Union, the great Taylor Twellman. Morning, Taylor.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. So I'm curious, with the United States Women's World Cup being played at 2 o'clock a.m. Central Time, and you being as closely tied to the game as you are, how do you handle the viewing of that game?
Well, considering I need to pick up coffee and donuts for Messi and his friends every single morning here in Miami, I am watching that on tape delay, my friend. I need my beauty sleep.
That's what I that's where I was going to bet on it, but I didn't know. So you have not been able to watch. I'm sure you know the result, of course, but you haven't been able to watch the full 90 minutes, 90 plus.
I watched probably about 85 of it.
Oh, okay. Wow, you've already watched it. Look at you.
Yeah.
How about Carly? Carly Lloyd's comments got the response of the team following the game. You're in a spot, and I think that's one of the things that soccer fans appreciate from you is that you don't really care who you offend. You give people what you think, and if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. She was certainly critical of the team, and she got into the effort area, which sometimes can be a tough spot when you were just part of the team, 18, 19 months ago.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think anytime, first off, I thought Carly Lloyd this morning was very good. I thought she was very poignant. I thought she was very strong. I've always been a belief, how can you ever really criticize someone's effort wanting to win? I think that's difficult, right? Now, you can base that on, physicality and certain things, but it's very difficult, in my opinion, to judge someone's effort or wanting to win. I thought this morning Carly Lloyd was brilliant. I thought she was straight to the point. I thought she gave her opinion. I find Carly Lloyd as someone that I know. I think what she said this morning about benching Alex Morgan and celebrating post-game as if you've won games and certain things, I think she would have said that in the locker room. So I thought those comments were very strong and on point. I think anytime you criticize effort, that's a difficult one. I've never done that. Just because I've been in the position, how do you know from 10,000 feet whether or not I'm trying hard? Mm-hmm. That's always a difficult one, right? Yeah. But she's pushed some buttons. And make no mistake about it, one of the best players in U.S. women's history has pushed some buttons, and I think some of those buttons needed to be pushed.
I had a friend of mine text me this morning, Taylor, said we'd be talking today, and I wanted to get his perspective on it. And he said one of the issues is this team just doesn't have the same number of stars as years past, and the global women's game has improved massively in the last decade. And so what may look like a big step back for the United States can also be viewed as the women's game growing globally and the improvement of play, bringing the United States back to the pack. How do you view it?
I took a lot of criticism, Tim, about 4 years ago when I said, make no mistake about it, the U.S. women, the gap has been closed and it will get even tighter in the next World Cup. And I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I just saw signs with the U17s, the U20s, the youth around the world. Listen, the moment you get the French, the Colombians, the Brazilians, these footballing nations behind their women's game, it's only inevitable that they're going to catch up to that. And so I don't think people have given it enough respect. I think Vlatko's had a very, very, very bad group stage. The fact that he's only using one sub, and that one sub is Rapinoe, who's, 38? Mm-hmm. I just say there is a lot to be questioned regarding the U.S. women's game. Some of that is athletic. Some of that is players. I think some of it is tactical, and some of it is coaching. I just think that we're naive to think that we're always going to have this gap because we put more emphasis on the women's game before any other country did. Now you've got footballing nations and countries putting their emphasis behind the women's game. It's only inevitable that they're going to catch up to us.
Taylor Twellman brought to you by Together Credit Union every Tuesday here on 101 ESPN with me, Tim McKernan, and Jackson Burkett. It is Tuesdays with Taylor here on 101 ESPN. Switching gears to City. Clearly they didn't prioritize the League's Cup. I was surprised last night when I saw Columbus and their success against Club America. I just, based on what I saw, and listen, to act like I know anything about any of that operation would be totally disingenuous, but did that catch you off guard with that result with Columbus and beating up in Club America like they did?
The scoreline a little bit, Tim, but not the way the game was played. Club America and Columbus are eerily similar the way they get after it. I think it exposed St. Louis City.
That's what I was wondering,
the next 3 weeks, I really do, Tim. I think the next 3 weeks are extremely important for Bradley Cardinal and this group because I think they got punched in the face. And I think they got punched in the face harder than they have throughout the entire year. I think I said this on the broadcast against Club America. It was humble pie on the field, and I was stunned how humble that pie was off the field. The amount of Club America fans in the stadium, the amount of Club America fans that did the St. Louis City supporters, and that's a fact. That's not even an opinion. And so I think this is great timing for Lutz Pfannenstiel and Bradley Cardinal because I think that group – now, you may say they didn't prioritize it. I could probably defend you on that regarding Columbus's 11. That's not true against Club America. They played their best 11 that was possible. Blum couldn't play because he was a late scratch due to an injury concern, but they played the best lineup they had, St. Louis City, and they got played off the park.
So how do you...
From the opening whistle, they got played off the park.
So you have about 3 weeks, a little less than 3 weeks between now and getting back after it on August 20th. If you're Bradley Cardinal, what do you do? I guess you can try to take what just took place and use that as some kind of, as you said, you got punched in the face. What do you do to try to keep the momentum you had going into this break?
I send them away, Tim. I get them away from the facility for about 6-7 days. Just clear it. You know, this is new for everyone within the game. But you played so many games in hot weather. The players are tired. Get them away. Fresh start. You get them back 2 weeks before that first game and get them going. They'll be fine. And it also allows that sour taste in their mouth to sit a little bit longer. So you're now going to get a group chopping at the bit, a group that's going to be ready to play. If Klaus isn't ready, Tim, then you and I are going to be spending many of Tuesdays questioning what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
But I think Nielsen scoring a goal in the City 2 game playing, that's going to be as if they signed a new player. But I think in the back, they look vulnerable. I think they look susceptible to real simple mistakes. I thought the Columbus game, Bartlett was not great, and I thought against Club America, Parker and Yaro were chasing shadows. I think Nielsen, if he comes back and healthy, ready to go, you're talking about a DP center back that changes the complexion of this team.
Taylor Twellman every Tuesday here and giving his perspective on a wide variety of soccer topics presented by Together Credit Union. Taylor, always enjoyed the conversation. Thanks so much for the time this morning.
All right, buddy. Be good.
Take it easy, man. That's Taylor Twellman with us here. All right, we will go back to the Little Piddles, Action Beaver, half and half, and get the latest if we have anything new before we hand it over to BK and Ferrario on the trade deadline. You are listening to Balloon Party on 101 ESPN, driven by Munganast, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota.
This is Action Jackson here to talk to you about Circa Sportsbook. They got 2 major contests going on with $14 million in guaranteed prizes. Of course, they have the Circa Millions with $6 million in guaranteed prizes. It's $1,000 per entry, maximum of 5 entries per person. You must register at Circa Sportsbook in Nevada. You pick 5 teams against the spread every week. Winner takes home $1 million. There are also quarterly and season-long prizes along the way. They also have the Circa Survivor Pool, $8 million guaranteed to the winners, $1,000 per entry with a maximum of 10 entries per person. You pick 1 team straight up every week to win. If the team loses or ties, the entry is eliminated. You can only pick each team once in a season. Go 20-0 and be the last person standing to win. If a single person wins, they get the entire pot. If multiple people go 20-0, or if multiple people are eliminated on the same week to reduce the contest to 0, they will split the pot. That's $14 million in guaranteed prizes, all available over at Circa Sportsbook.
Well, if you want to see Jackson getting emotional during the discussion of Whitesnake, I just tweeted it out from my basically defunct Twitter account.
Right.
If anybody wants, however many people started following me when I was a hell of a lot more open.
You're kind of like
14 years ago.
A GIF depot. It's just so many
Maybe
GIFs.
I should change my name to GIF Depot.
You're the GIF depot. It's just all GIFs. And trust me, no one loves GIFs more than me. So
you can see Jackson. What's your reaction to seeing this GIF? A listener created the GIF and sent it to me. So I got that on the Twitter tweets and on the TMA fan page on Facebook. If you want to join it, we've got a couple hundred people in the queue that Jackson needs to approve, and he won't.
That's right, because I have a big problem with all those people. I look like Linda Blair.
A little bit.
In The Exorcist, where just something comes. It was like a burp cough combo, and it caused me to get really emotional.
I noticed that.
Because it's like I'm better than that. Like I usually could control bodily functions until it's like, when I would play basketball, like I never would have to, go to the bathroom during the game. I'm so locked in. And so clearly I wasn't locked in. And I think the white snake discussion was evidence.
It got you clearly. Today is, of course, deadline day. We are 6 hours and 5 minutes away from deadline day. Jack Flaherty at 5:15. Is he a member of the Cardinals?
No.
Paul DeYoung at 5:15. Is he a member of the Cardinals?
No.
Tyler O'Neill at 5:15. Is he a member of the Cardinals?
Yes.
Interesting. Dylan Carlson at 5:15. Is he a member of the Cardinals?
No.
Nolan Gorman at 5:15. Is he a member of the Cardinals?
Yes.
Wilson Contreras at 5:15. Is he a member of the Cardinals?
Yes.
Anybody I didn't mention that you would like to tend to? Brendan Donovan, 5:15, member of the Cardinals.
That's the one that's a coin flip to me, because he has so much value. And like if you're going to be competitive in 2024, you're going to have to give up somebody of value in 2023 who's not going to be a free agent at the end of the season. I know Montgomery and Hicks have a lot of value, but they, of course, are going to be free agents at the end of the season. So if you're going to want to get somebody that's going to provide you with 2024 assistance, you might have to give somebody up.
Somebody was asking in the text inbox, I lost it here, that isn't it realistic for the Cardinals to go out and get a number one and a number two starter in free agency? Well, yes, it is. It is realistic. That can happen. But I would ask you, and I'd ask the audience, do you expect the Cardinals to do that?
No. I expect them to try maybe for one starter, but how often have the Cardinals made two
free agent starting pitchers in this market with A or B tier starters?
Right.
I mean, is it a big ask? It is a big ask for the majority of major league organizations. For this particular organization and the manner with which they've done business, it would be ridiculously out of character, and it may be a really big ask financially. Again, I continue to talk about that Bally situation is potentially impacting the way they go about doing business. But to play devil's advocate, the Cardinals have said, we've got to change the way we have approached things because the old model is not working anymore. So maybe that's the direction they go. And if they do go that way, what two starters would you say, Jackson?
I would love to see Aaron Nola.
I know you're a Nola guy. Who would be your
Blake Snell? I would also love to see.
You are spending hundreds of millions of dollars with just those two players and Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado on the team, and Wilson Contreras still do approximately $70+ million.
Yeah, you would jump up into that top 10 of payroll, I would assume.
Into it if you got Nola, Snell with Goldschmidt, Arenado, and Contreras.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It just isn't necessarily something. Can it happen? The answer to that, of course, yes. But do I think it's something the Cardinals likely do? And even if they do intend on doing that, you also have to have the player and his agent wanting to come here.
Yeah, especially in free agency, trade deadline, different story. And I think you got to look back at the Cardinals' history. I know that we've talked about they're trying to change up the model, but they are products of their own history, both for the good and the bad. The past couple aces, going back to the mid-2000s, almost all homegrown. Adam Wainwright was a byproduct of the trade from J.D. Drew, but...
And don't forget Eli Marrero. Thanks.
Sure. But Carpenter, Waino, the brief moment where Waka looked like an ace... Flaherty, these guys
I'll tell you what, man, it's a decade later, and he's dealing for the Padres.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that. I thought he was done. So tip of the cap to him for continuing to go. And yeah, in 2013, man, he was
sick.
He was the sickest.
Yeah,
but these are Abdul and Kershaw.
These are all guys that came up through the organization, not necessarily guys they went and signed.
No, that's 100% correct. So that is why I think fans go, oh, God, you're going to entrust the same group of people who put them in this spot to rebuild from that in 2023/2024. And how realistic is it for them to be successful with it? BK and Ferrario in the fast lane will be monitoring the trade deadline throughout the day here on 101 ESPN. This is one of my favorite days. I love this kind of stuff. I'm anxious to see what happens over the next 6 hours. 101 ESPN, your place to be listening for Cardinal trade deadline news. Time for us to shut it down. For Action Jackson, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota is the presenting sponsor of Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. And I would like to think that may be enough for you to go, you know what, I can choose between a couple of dealerships. I'm going to choose the supporting sponsor of Balloon Party, my favorite 1 hour midday show on 101 ESPN. But here's where I'm going to go first person on you. I have been working with Jamie Burkhardt, Clayton Patterson, Peter Munganast at Munganast, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota now for a few years. And I just think the absolute world of them, number one, as far as the way they do business, their responsiveness, how well they take care of so many people in our TMA audience and the Tim McKernan Show podcast audience and now in Balloon Party. But in addition to that, even if you don't get your car from Munganess, which I think is a mistake, but that's fine, they'll service the car at Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota. And they pride themselves on taking care of any and all vehicles for our listeners. They have a secret number for our listeners to call or text, and that number is 314-252-0029. And they also, of course, have stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. It is Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota.